Hello universe, Josh here. I was just watching a video by a YouTube user named Tooltime9901, and I've been watching his videos for a little while. I'm always interested in what he has to say, although sometimes he can ramble, which I'm kind of doing now. The point is, I just watched a video about, you'll see the title, about modern art, and he went to a museum a little while ago, and he saw a bicycle wheel bolted onto a bar stool, I believe it was. And I don't know the context of what it was, but he was saying, why is this in a museum? This doesn't make sense, because it's not, it wasn't appealing to him. It didn't speak to him, and that's fine. And then he got a little bit of criticism, I guess, from users saying, well, you just don't understand the history, or this was really revolutionary for his time. And then so the video that I'm responding to is him responding to his critics about that he thinks that's hypocritical, because they're saying, oh well, it's avant-garde and etc., but now it's turned into something that's the status quo. So I just wanted to respond because I think that Tooltime, I think that he is wrong, but not entirely. And I think he's right that that modern art, it turns into he uses the term cult of personality, and he's right that I think it does. I think it really turns into a cult of personality. But I honestly think, and he's saying, well, there should be other criteria for what art is. Like, what about technical mastery? And what about aesthetic value? What about things just looking good, I guess, is what he's trying to say. And I think, like, the point that I would make is he's absolutely correct about art being a cult of personality and a scam. Scam. In that art, and always this, like, what we perceive as our artistic values and visions, is always going to be a cult of personality. It's always about appealing to your friends, and sometimes it's about making new friends, but art, it's always a social activity. And maybe they're not your friends, I guess, if you're kind of an anti-social artist, but you develop a, like, even if they're not called friends, they might be called sycophants or disciples, or pick a wide range of places on the spectrum of appreciation for art. And I think my preferred word for that sort of thing would be friends. Like, when you're an artist, you don't have I don't think you have an audience. You don't have appreciators. You don't have disciples. You shouldn't have any of those things. I don't think you should just have friends, and you should write and make sculptures and do spectacles for your friends, for them to look at. And we've got a world where it's possible to have billions of friends, and we see this with religions, where billions of people can consider themselves in the same group, by virtue of being in a religion, although there are splits within that group. And then there's sub-friends and this and that, and groups of friends. But really, Tooltime made this point, so I'm agreeing with him on this, that really art is always has been about the in-group creating stuff that they like, and then there's this kind of this out-group that comes in and says, hey, this isn't right, why aren't we included, why aren't we in it? And that what they do, one of their strategies, I mean, there's a million strategies to get in, or to butt up against this establishment, but one of their strategies is to say, oh no, see, we are modern, we are new, we do the new thing, we do the thing that happens next, we're avant-garde, we're bringing in the next revolution. We're revolutionaries. We're young, and that works with young people because they can say, "Oh, well, we have the new ideas," and the old people, they're kind of stuck in their way because they do the same thing for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, same pieces of work over and over and over again, because that's how you get good at what you do in art. It's also what you do to improve your relationship with your audience, because they're going to be expecting things. And see, I think that's what technical skill is all about. And in technical skill in art, you're not accomplishing anything by becoming the greatest painter who ever lived, and technically, because that doesn't mean anything. You're not actually creating any real objective sense of goodness in your artwork. You're only playing to the same audience better and better and better. And that's what I'm trying to say. And then when you get the avant-garde, you say, oh, well, they've been doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's time for something new. And we can do that. We can have a new, fresh perspective, and there's always going to be that. And that's where I think that Tool Time goes a little bit wrong in saying that he seems to infer, and he can respond to this if, like in general, if other people also pick up on this, that he seems to have this idea that there is a universal way to value art outside of just, these are my friends and I make art for my friends, and sometimes I make art that upsets them, but eventually they all come around. So it's all about in-groups, and it's all about creating your little sphere and cults of personality. It really is. It really is. And there isn't this objective aesthetic value. And there's another school floating around that says, oh, but maybe there's an objective appreciation for art in that it comes from nature. It comes from, because we're human beings, we grew up in the savannah, we like kind of green colors, and that's pleasant to us, and we like the idea of water. But you can only really take that so far, because how do you represent that to other people? And there's also art that's unrelated to the pleasantries of the savannah and the human evolution. And maybe there's another school that says, well, truly great art is the art that challenges you, that gets you to think. It jars you out of what you're doing, and it's basically, it appeals to another evolutionary nature within ourselves of that desire to solve problems and the desire to overcome new obstacles, and because we're built into that in order to progress and survive, and that's how we ended up in this crazy society that we have now. We've always been problem solvers as a species, so that appeals to us in art because it kind of lets us practice that skill and with not a whole lot of risk. So that's another possible school of looking at art, but it's still, at the core of it, it's still going to be the cult of personality. It's still going to be about who's in and who's not in. And it's always possible for groups to use that idea that, we have the right way of looking at this. They can use an appeal to absolute truth, to absolute aesthetic, to create the next movement. They can use that that appeal to some kind of external thing. And yes, it is hypocritical, because there is no external thing to appeal to. I mean, there are various external things that you can refer to within your work of art that you're creating, but there's no one system that explains everything. There are many little systems, and each group will glom onto their own little system, and they'll be about that thing, even if it isn't necessarily logically consistent, or it isn't what they're actually doing. They can have this idea, and I think that's where modern art is, where they're like, yeah, we're new, we're the thing, we know what we're doing, and it's not really. I mean, it's not that they're being avant-garde. It's not that they're finding something new. It's the fact that it is new and it is different people taking a stab at it, and different people rising to prominence and gaining more art friends, if you, as you will, like appreciators. So that's what I had to say about Tool Time's video, and I hope people enjoyed listening and respond with your own thoughts in video or in comments. I'll send you over to his video. This will be a response to it, so do comment on Tool Time's video and comment on mine, and I'll talk to you in the comments.